If you're building a strategy for property investing, these are the 4 phases you need to have. I'm going to break them down exactly what is involved in each phase, what are the priorities, and this is how you can structure yourself to build enormous amounts of wealth in real estate. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, personal development, and all things financial freedom. Now, when you go out there and say, I've got a plan, you better have all of these phases in there because that is how you're going to guarantee your way to success when it comes to real estate investing. Now, I'll go out there to say, if you are going out and investing in real estate and you want to do this in the next couple of years and just retire, then this video is not for you. This is for someone who wants to go out there, build a structured portfolio to give them everything they want to then be able to have a sustainable portfolio that continues growing, but also is less hands-on. So if you're one of those people, smash that like button and now we continue. So 4 phases is what you need. Phase 1 is acquisition phase. Now, the acquisition phase is where you spend all of your time acquiring assets. There's a few tactics that you need, or at least priorities that you need to focus on in each of these phases. And when it comes to acquisition, your number 1 goal is how do I acquire more real estate? So if you are going out there and saying, I want to go and acquire more real estate, you need to explore all of the options that you have available to you to be able to do that. Now, not only do you want to buy more real estate, but you want to buy strategically. So you want to say, okay, if I go out there and buy a property that gives me, say, $2,000 worth of cash flow, but grows at, say, 2% a year, versus something that gives me negative $5,000 worth of cash flow, but gives you growth of about 7%, you need that property, not the other way around. And the reason you want that is because if you can go out there and acquire the assets that give you the most growth up front, it's going to allow you to extract that equity to be able to go again. When I started investing in real estate, I used to scratch my head not understanding why people do it this way. But as soon as I understood the phases and the tactics and the objectives that you need in your strategy, it made so much sense. And so I'm going to break it down for you now. It comes down to interest-only repayments versus interest plus principal. I used to think, why would anyone go out there, take on this debt, buy this property to not actually pay it off? Like, it just makes no sense. You're paying interest and you always get told by the time you finish up that 30-year mortgage, you've paid 3 times as much in interest, you're an idiot. But the reality is the person giving you that advice is most likely the idiot. And I'll tell you why. Because they're focusing on the negatives of it. Focus on the positives and the positives outweigh the negatives completely and multiples over. So yes, you might end up paying a lot more interest, but you've got to think about why people do this. And when you actually look under the hood, you realize why people do it. I've made this mistake myself, which is why I want to explain it. So the reason why people go interest only is because during the acquisition phase, you're saying, how do I use debt as leverage to go and buy more real estate? So why would I now spend half of my time paying down debt while the other half of my time I'm using more debt to acquire more assets? What I should be doing is saying, okay, I want to go and hold as many properties for as long as possible, which means from a cash flow perspective, how is this most sustainable? Well, one way would be if I lower my repayments, which is just interest only, that means I can hold all that real estate. My debt will stay the same, but my values will increase. And if I go interest plus principal, I may only be able to hold, say, 2 properties. But if I go interest only, I may be able to hold 3 or 4 properties because it allows me to budget a lot better. And once I realized that, it completely changed the trajectory of my portfolio. It allowed me to acquire more real estate. And although that meant I had more debt, over the long term, you realize that the debt that I had on the first property means absolutely nothing because over the 10, 15, 20 years, the property continued growing higher and the debt stayed the same. The key thing in the acquisition phase is that you need to look at all strategies, you need to look at all structures, and you need the expert team. This is where you need them the most because they're going to tell you things you don't even know. A classic example is if you go out there and say, I'm just going to go to the bank and I'll do the research myself versus I go and use a mortgage broker. One, it's going to save you a hell of a lot of time, but they'll also tell you which lenders are more lenient towards your situation. And it means these policies allow you to borrow more or less, or this is how much valuation you'll get at this bank, but this is how much you'll get at another bank, allows you to draw out this much equity. It gives you so many more options. And that is what you actually need because servicing will get tight. It'll be one of the biggest things that stop you from growing wealth in real estate is your borrowing capacity and the availability of that credit. So if you can't get a loan, it means you can't buy. And if you can't buy the right properties and get the right valuations, you don't have enough equity to go and actually go and buy more property. So in the acquisition phase, you are the busiest and it's going to take the longest, but trust me, you need to be aggressive during this phase. Just think about going out there to a gym and saying, everything I do for the first 20 minutes will give me 3 to 4x return versus the rest of my workout. Guess what you're doing? You're putting all of your energy into the first 20 minutes, because if you can go out there and the input is 1x and the output is 3x versus the rest of your workout where 1x is the input and 1.2x is the output, you're putting all of your energy in the first front. And that is why it's so important you get acquisition phase right from the beginning. Phase 2 is the consolidation phase. Now, if we're looking at timelines, the acquisition phase could take you 10 years, it could take you 12 years, and in some cases, it could even take you 5 years. But it depends on what your goals are, and then working backwards to say, how many properties do I need to acquire? It also depends on your starting point. If you have inherited all this money, well, then you're going to be able to move a lot faster. But in a lot of our cases, you're going to go out there, you save the deposit for the first one. The next couple of years, it means you do nothing. Then the equity from the first property plus your savings allow you to get into the next one, and so on, so on. In the consolidation phase, you're not really looking at acquiring more real estate. What you're looking at is, how do I consolidate my portfolio so I'm only managing a set few of properties, but I've also reduced my LVR position. Maybe I'm not comfortable with as much debt anymore. Maybe I'm really happy with my jobs. I took on multiple jobs, moved around a bit to increase my income, but now I'm actually happy where I'm at. Maybe I've got that side hustle that's now become my main hustle, and now I want to consolidate. So I may pay off some of the properties, I may sell some of the properties, I may trade some of those properties. And what I mean by trading is that I can renovate or flip it and then use the proceeds from that sale to then, enhance my lifestyle or consolidate some of that debt. This is the time that I want to start doing it. I also will spend a lot of my time here renovating my properties to make sure that there's less maintenance issues, getting the highest amount of rent that I could actually get, because it's now a superior product in the market. I also want to go out there, talk to my mortgage broker to see that I'm getting the right loans, the right loan structures, the interest rates are the lowest I can get, but the highest valuations. And I want to be structured with a backup plan. So if I've got equity, I want to be able to use that equity if I need as an emergency. I want to be able to sell some of the underperforming assets, or some of the assets that I get an absolute ridiculous offer on, I'm going to go and offload and then use that to consolidate my portfolio. It's at this time where you're now focusing on saying, how do I keep my 5, 10 properties, the ones that I want, for the rest of my life? Phase number 3 is the acceleration phase. Now, there's 2 ways you can go about this. So you go out there, you've acquired all your property in acquisition phase, then you clean up the portfolio in the consolidation phase. Now you have the acceleration phase. And the acceleration phase is one of 2 things. If you're someone who goes, okay, lifestyle changes have occurred, I've now got a new job, or hey, I've actually had the extra kid that I didn't think I was gonna have, I need to now pivot the direction or how much I'm gonna need when I need to retire. And that means I could accelerate my growth, which means I'm ultimately going out there, taking on a bit more debt. I'm going out there, buying under different structures and whatnot to go and acquire what I need, because I might fall short. Or you might just be in a position where your goals have changed and you say, okay, well, acceleration to me now means I want to pay off my debt even faster and retire earlier. Maybe you had this goal of saying, I want to live in Sydney and I'm going to have this property worth $5 million. But in fact, now my family and I actually want to live in, say, Melbourne, and the property is going to cost us $1 million or $2 million. Well, then in that case, you're saying, I actually don't need all these properties. I actually don't need to be working as hard as I am for this. I actually need significantly less. So let's accelerate that retirement plan and bring it forward. And so you can see how there's 2 ways you can go about it in acceleration phase, but this is a question that can only be answered when you get to that phase. So as much as we can plan for it, you ultimately want to get to that point and say, okay, now which move do I make? But you're constantly reviewing this process of your strategy, of what's in your portfolio, what's performing, what's not performing, and then getting the right advice from people like your accountant, because you want to make sure you're structured the right way, but also not paying too many taxes. And then finally is phase 4, which is exactly where most people want to be, is lifestyle. So in the lifestyle phase, you've gone out there, you've built the portfolio up, it's now taking care of itself, but you've realized, depending on your age, you might have access to your super, you might also be able to go out and sell some of these properties, reduce your level of debt, you may have a level of comfort, you may also have some health concerns that might pop up, so you need to go and adapt your portfolio. But in the lifestyle phase, this is where your portfolio is allowing you to go and live your best life. So you've gone and put the hard work in for the first 10, 15 years, and now potentially you're at the lifestyle phase where you can go and reap the rewards of all of the hard work you've put in. So you might have a portfolio that now generates $100,000 in passive income, and you go, okay, well, that's enough for me to go and work part-time, and so does my wife. Or it might be, hey, my partner doesn't need to work and I can continue working because I really like my job, or vice versa. The whole idea of the lifestyle phase is that you have exactly that, a lifestyle. And you can do this a lot faster. And if you think about it, the whole idea of going and investing more time upfront, building the portfolio out, having as much assets in the market for as long as possible allows you to enjoy life a lot earlier than most people think they can. I don't know about you, but going out there and retiring in 15 to 20 years sounds a lot better than retiring in 40 years. So yes, while people will go out there and tell you, no, you should enjoy life now and nothing else matters, don't worry about real estate, don't worry about acquiring wealth, you need to remove those people out of your life because that is not how you get to enjoy life. You're constantly feeling like you're underwater. You're gonna have to continue working even if you don't want to, and then health plays a part as you get older, but you still need to work. That doesn't sound great to me. That doesn't sound like I'm enjoying my life. If you need help with executing on a strategy like this, planning it out, mapping it out, and then actually doing the work, then definitely reach out to us. I'll leave a link in the description box to our buyer's agency, Search Property. It's a free call so you can discuss things like this and we can point you in the right direction. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks guys.